Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to our random review. Today this is my final part of my unofficial Jan Svankmajer season. So we're going to go to 2005 and we're going to have some Lunacy, which some people would probably say is most of Svankmajer's career. Now, as you'll notice in the bottom, this is an 18 certificate, and it's probably fairly justifiable in its 18 certificate. I wouldn't watch this if you're a vegetarian. There's a lot of meat in the film. It's pretty much the only thing that's animated in the film. This is probably the Svankmajer film that has the most kind of live actors acting in it, as opposed to being animated themselves. The meat animation is really more an undercurrent and a symbolic, metaphorical device to suggest that we're the meat. Now, as the title of the film might suggest, this is about mental health. Svankmajer introduces the film again in a pop-up version at the start of the film, and he talks about this as a kind of tribute to Edgar Allan Poe and the Marquis de Sade. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the film's going to be about. Now, it's set in modern day, and we meet this character, a young man who has nightmares about these two men breaking into his bedroom and putting a straitjacket on him. He's on the way back home from his mother's funeral, who died in an insane asylum, and he fears that he may be going the same way. And when he comes to from these dreams, he's generally wrecked the room he's in, like a old-fashioned rock star. But there's another guest at this inn, the Marquis, who dresses like a 16th century Marquis, even though we're in modern day, or are we? But he says he'll pay for the bill. He has somewhat of a strange sense of humour, and you could argue whether he's sane or not. I think that's one of the points of the film, are the sane insane and the insane sane. As well as what does meat look when it's animated. So he offers to give the man a lift in his carriage. There's a wonderful juxtaposition of the carriage going down the road while there's cars going by. They cross a bridge over a motorway, and obviously you can see the motorways filled with automobiles, and they're in this old carriage. So he stays with the Marquis, but his character's Jean, but he comes to the conclusion there's some strange things going on. I'm not going to ruin all the visuals, because some of the visuals and the imagery are amongst the best of Svankmajer's career. As he says in the little intro, some people may look at it as blasphemous. There's a wonderfully beautiful thing that the Marquis does to a statue of Christ. He has rituals with his manservant who has had his tongue removed, and there's female nudity in these proceedings. and it's generally a bit of a strange place to be. So the Marquis eventually realises that Jean has a problem with this, so he volunteers to take him to a local asylum that's run by a friend of his. So we've seen the stricter side of treating mental health with punishment and whippings and female nudity and all that sexy stuff. So we go to this asylum where the inmates are basically just free, so they're just wandering about in a wonderful scene with lots of feathers. They're going down the stairs in a sled. There's a wonderful moment where a patient's bashing his head against a pillar, and the director of the asylum just pulls some pillows down so he can continue to bang his head, but it's over against a pillow. That's mental health treatment at work. But Jean doesn't want to stay there either until he sees a beautiful young lady who is the director's daughter, who he may or may not have seen earlier. So he decides to stay, because we all have that Spanish prisoner problem. But then she tells him that not everything inside the asylum may be as it seems. And I'll leave the synopsis there, because again, with Svankmajer, it's about the imagery, and certainly this is probably his most grotesque film, aside from the meat, but it's perhaps in some strange ways most beautiful, even though it's grotesque. It's probably his least funny film. I mean, his other films, there's a kind of streak of black humour in it, whereas there's not as much black humour in this one. This is more straight on kind of horror and dread. But again, it's about your view of how do we treat the mentally ill. Do we punish them? You know, at one point we learn about a 13-step treatment, which becomes more and more barbaric. Or do you let them kind of run free as it is, obviously in the grounds of the asylum, but you just kind of let them do whatever they like. Or the third option is, you know, society as a whole is one great big insane asylum, which you can't really argue that much considering what's going on in the world. So even though it was made in 2005, which hard to believe is 20 years ago, as with all Svankmajer films, I think it's still relevant, even though he exists in this surrealist world, this very dark alternate reality. I still think his films have a place in our reality, sadly. And again, like all great artists, he does speak the truth. Unfortunately, I think we're just stuck with Svankmajer films on DVD. As I've said before in my conversation with the guys at Deaf Crocodile, they have approached Svankmajer's team, and they seem to be perfectly happy with DVD quality for Svankmajer. I don't think there's going to be Blu-rays anytime soon, which is a shame because these films are just full of imagery that you don't forget in a hurry, whether you want to or not. But as I said, this is another wonderful Svankmajer, but as I said, it is strong meat, if you'll pardon the pun. It's certainly not for the weak-stomached. Don't worry, there's still close-ups of people eating. You know, that's the Svankmajer, one of the Svankmajer staples of people eating and close-ups of their mouths, which make the whole thing even more disgusting. Yeah, perhaps not the first Svankmajer film you should watch if you're new to the crazy Czech, but certainly another wonderful example of Svankmajerism. I'm going with it anyway. So thanks for watching this random review, or essentially this last episode, even though it's completely unofficial, of my Svankmajer season. Please let me know if you've seen Lunacy, or if you suffer from lunacy like most of us do. So thanks very much for watching. Appreciate the support as always. Please let me know again if you've seen Lunacy and what you think of it. And hope you'll join me again for more random reviews. Certainly the reviews I've been doing recently have been very random. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.